presenting chapters 8 and 16 from Phonics to Fluency. And chapter 8 is all about teaching advanced word patterns. Patterns in words contain a meaning, a root, which is the word part, carries meaning, affixes, which are patterned word parts. They alter basic meaning of words in the form of prefixes and suffixes, and derivational patterns, which are words, word parts from other languages like Greek and Latin. Those are important for understanding and decoding as well. So the book does recommend teaching about 50 affixes from 2nd to 8th grade, and in doing so it would actually cover all the affixes that are included in the back of the book, and of course they need to be introduced and then revisited frequently. And so the strategy for teaching that's recommended in this chapter is to focus on 1 or 2 affixes per week. And of course you introduce the affix or affixes, you discuss the meaning, you list the words with affixes and incorporate them into the word wall. Provide those writing and speaking opportunities for our students, especially our English learners, and continue to revisit them. Don't stop there, but continue to provide them with opportunities to revisit them. And next was teaching those derivational patterns. This helps students decode words and discover their meanings as well. And again, that same idea of the frequent exposures to solidify the information in our students. And so the strategy for this is very similar to teaching affixes. So you focus on 1 or 2 root words per week. You introduce those roots, you list them on the word wall and in the word journals for those English words. Incorporate them into the word wall, provide again those writing and speaking opportunities, and continue to revisit them. In this section, it does give more examples of how to revisit these words through multiple exposures and multiple contexts, and that would be word sorts, closed activities, and even word games. And then the highlights of chapter 16, beyond word study. Right? This chapter was centered on fluency, and this quote really stood out to me. Fluency is like a bridge that connects word decoding to comprehension, and really readers pay attention to the meaning and making sense of the text, not just the decoding aspect of it. And so these were the components of fluency, right? Accurate decoding, automatic decoding, chunking text to read with expression. All of this will enable comprehension, right? So the recommendation is to devote 15 to 20 minutes each day to fluency instruction, right? So students should be provided with opportunities to practice fluent reading each day. One section in the chapter was about providing all these activities for fluency instruction. One of them was model fluent reading. And here students need to hear expressive reading, and this can be done through teacher read out louds, where teachers, they need to practice beforehand. It cannot be a cold read, especially because they're practicing the expression. Vary the types of selections that are read during the read out louds, and then have students focus on the ways that the teacher uses voice during reading with these questions, right? So you would ask the kiddos after you've done the read out loud, what did you notice about my voice? How did my voice help you pay attention or understand? And how did I use my voice to show emotion? This way we're getting them to think about the reading. Another activity was to provide fluency assistance in the form of scaffolding instruction through assisted reading, which is important. Some examples of that was having group readings, like a core reading, and having students pair up with paired reading, and these were very purposeful pairs. For example, having a fluent reader with a struggling reader, and then allowing them to use pre-recorded books, like audio, to listen to someone reading, and taking it a step further by having students record themselves as well. Another activity was repeated readings, because practice leads to fluency, right? And so providing authentic and engaging reasons for practice was really essential here. Some examples of that was having a poetry cafe where students are practicing reciting their poetry because there's going to be a performance in front of the class or in front of the community. Reader theaters was another one where they're practicing their scripts for performance, again, in front of an audience. And the podcast recordings, which is very similar to that reader theater, except that now they're recording themselves. And finally, the chapter did advise to choose texts very carefully, right? And for fluency, to select easy text, easy in the form of word recognition and syntactic complexity. Although challenging texts can be included as well, they do need to be supported and scaffolded for instruction for them to be successful with them. Select text with a strong sense of voice, and examples of that are like speeches, dialogues, monologues, and have predictable pattern text in the form of poetry and songs. That was the end of that chapter 16, and I'm moving on to my 3 selected instructional strategies. Right, these are the strategies that support struggling readers and writers. So my first strategy I chose is called Divide and Conquer, and this strategy is used to help students recognize structure, sound, and the meaning of both affixes and derivational patterns, and it introduces students to roots and guides them to learn the essential meaning of them. Right, so this is how it works. You have a list of about 10 words with the same prefix, right? So you choose these words. For example, distract, disorder, disintegrated, disown, disapprove. And you read, the first step is you read the words out loud to students so they can hear those words orally. And you have students choose 1 or 2 words from the list where they're going to identify the 2 basic units of each word and divide them into a prefix and a root. Then of course they provide the meaning of each based on the information that they already have, which is the prefix and the root word. This strategy helps students focus on the critical meaning of the prefix, right? It helps them understand the meaning of the words attained by those 2 components. And here's an example of that. So this is the word, these are the words, these are the components, and then this would be the definition derived from breaking it down. Materials that are necessary here are really just a display board or chart, and this is because when students are already sharing their meanings and sharing those divisions, the teacher needs to anchor them as well, and students need to also anchor that information, all those words, in individual sheets, so they would need individual sheets as well as pencils. My second strategy is Fluency Development Lesson, or better known as FDL. And here it combines fluency instruction to maximize students' reading. And this is a short activity. It's only meant to take 10 to 15 minutes. And it's also just a supplement to the regular reading curriculum. And this is how it works. So the students will be reading a pre-selected text that the teacher selects. And typically this is poetry, 50 to 200 words, right? So the teacher makes all these copies. The first step is distribute these copies of the selected text. The teacher is the one who reads and rereads the text to the class, while the students follow silently and passively at first. Then teachers and students do discuss the text and discuss that prosodic quality of the teacher's reading. So they're really discussing how well the text was read with expression, how well that quality from the teacher was, right? So we're getting them to think about their reading. And after that, the class reads the text orally several times in a variety of ways. So this is where the teacher brings in that authentic and variety of ways of getting them to read. The class is then divided into pairs, with one student reading the text to the partner 3 times, while the partner follows along, and helps if needed, and gives them positive feedback. right, which I really like. And then the partners switch roles. So once both partners take turns, there is a regroup, and the teacher will ask for volunteers for students to perform in front of the class, and of course more positive feedback is provided, which nurtures, you know, a safe environment for them as well. Then students and teachers choose words to study and add to that word bank, right? So students take a copy home in the end to read to the family, and that way they also get praise at home. So the materials necessary here are copies of the selected text, of course, examples of positive feedback, because, you know, sometimes students don't know what to say to each other in a form of praise, and a word bank, individual anchors, and highlighters and pencils. And my third strategy is quiz trade, which is actually a Kagan cooperative learning structure. Here, students review information or vocabulary with other students by asking and answering questions. And so students work with others, with their peers, in a non-threatening environment that also builds confidence and fully engages them, right? So each student here needs one vocabulary card. On one side you'll find the word, and on the reverse side you'll find the definition. So when students pair up, they signal each other that they need a partner by raising their hand. Once they pair up, partner A quizzes partner B, and then partner B answers. Partner A either praises them, so get that positive feedback, or if partner B was incorrect, it coaches or tutors. And of course then they switch roles, and then partner B quizzes A. And then it's the same thing, partner B praises or coaches, and then at this point, since partner A already quizzed, partner B already quizzed, then they trade cards and thank each other, and they continue to find partners within the classroom by repeating all the steps a number of times until the teacher says to stop. The materials necessary for this activity are really just those vocabulary cards. So here students are really just practicing word recognition and meanings, and examples of positive feedback once more. Okay, so this concludes my presentation, and I thank you very much for joining me.